Good afternoon, Northeast Ohio. Power 5 meteorologist Phil Sakel here to give you kind of an update as to what we're looking at for the afternoon hours. A very active start to the day today. Certainly a lot of lightning. My goodness, still continues to be very lightning filled here in Northeast Ohio, all the way from basically Canton towards the north and northeast. Lightning strikes continue to stick around for the early half of this afternoon. Let's get our clock on how many of those lightning strikes. Nearly 720 lightning strikes continuing to at least pummel parts of Stark County all the way up towards Youngstown. Parts of the lake, in fact, actually seeing a little bit of that potential of some lightning right now. Let's turn that off for just a second. And let's check out what's going on with this severe thunderstorm warning, which was issued about 20 minutes ago for Stark County. We still have a potential for a little bit more in the way of some hail. This goes through about 2 o'clock this afternoon. The main focus certainly has been a little bit more of that hail, up to about an inch in a few locations, but majority of which has been under the 60-mile-per-hour threshold of severe limits. So that's some good news. We've seen about 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts in a couple of these storms, but overall things not too bad with the winds, at least at the moment, as the colder air is still kind of lingering towards the northern half of our viewing area, keeping things a little bit more stable, but overall still some stronger wind gust possibility with this storm, and it continues to move off towards the north and northeast. So parts of at least Stark County, Canton towards North Canton, pretty much out of the woods with regards to this storm right now, continues to move off towards Louisville. Parts of the eastern half of the county, certainly potential for maybe some pea-size hail to nearly quarter size between now and about 2 o'clock. So you will want to at least stay a little bit more weather aware if you're out and about for the end of this afternoon. Things will begin to quiet down a little bit more, so that is some good news as we take a wider view across most of Northeast Ohio. Things a lot quieter than they were earlier today, so that is certainly some good news right now, but we're not done with this potential of some stormy weather. In fact, it'll increase much later in the afternoon and throughout the evening hours. Taking a wider view showing, there's a tornado watches all the way from St. Louis down towards Little Rock, and more of this will start to move our way as I put the national radar on the system here. Let's take a look at those storms starting to take shape out towards St. Louis, down towards even Little Rock, even into parts of eastern Oklahoma. This is going to be a pretty potent line, especially in through parts of the Mississippi River Valley. So a lot of this will be a little bit more active for the end of this afternoon through the early evening hours, especially in Indiana, parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, parts of Missouri down to Arkansas will be a little bit more of the at least highlight of this potential of severe weather, but this continues to move further north and eastward into most of Northeast Ohio by the end of this evening through the overnight tonight. So let's take a look at one of our models right now, if I can get the latest model here. As far as the storms right now, starting to move through with our warm front continuing to push through the north, but we're still looking at some pretty chilly temps across parts of the region for the moment. But once we get to about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, things much warmer, upper 50s, even close to 60 in a few locations, so that potential for at least 60 plus begins to move in by about 4 or 5 o'clock, and winds still pretty strong even outside of a couple of thunderstorms. A lot of this should remain below severe limits. That's the good news. So evening plans, probably seeing some rain showers, maybe a lightning strike or two, not nearly as much lightning as we've certainly seen throughout the morning, early afternoon time frame, but still a couple of lightning strikes a possibility. And once we get past about 6, 7 o'clock tonight, starting to see more warmth, mid to upper 60s towards our southern communities, and you'll notice out towards the west. That is our main focus by about 8 o'clock in western Ohio, and that will start to move our way for the end of the overnight tonight through the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So you kind of notice a little bit of that bow. This is the model suggesting some damaging wind potential as those upper level winds kind of start to drop to the surface. That threat for stronger winds of about 60, maybe 70 miles per hour will be a possibility. This is just one model, so the threat is kind of there, but not necessarily a guarantee by any stretch. And we'll see a lot of this starting to move into greater Cleveland by about 11 midnight, and then further eastward as the evening progresses. So there is a potential for some damaging winds, but maybe an isolated spin-up tornado not out of the question as well. Kind of see a little bit of that notch, a little bit of rotation potential kind of moving into parts of Lake Erie as the model suggests. Not a guarantee by any stretch, but we'll be tracking a lot of that throughout the evening into this overnight tonight. I'll be here through about 5 o'clock tonight. Mark will take over and bring you the latest throughout the evening hours, and Trent will be back in bright and early tomorrow to bring you the latest if we do happen to have any more potential of severe weather throughout the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So right now, models suggesting a lot of this starting to move through once we get to about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. things begin to quiet down with regards to severe weather, at least here in Cleveland. But further east, a lot more of that severe potential still lingers. So those folks in Canton, down even to Dover, New Philly, Youngstown, by about 2 a.m., the threat for at least some severe weather will be a possibility. So you want to make sure you have an ability to get those warnings. Maybe even just leave the TV on. That might not be a bad idea to get those severe thunderstorm warnings, and maybe isolated tornado warnings not out of the question. So that is throughout the latter half of the overnight tonight. And once we get past the front by about 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, severe risk will be over with. Still a lot of rain, unfortunately. We'll be tracking that potential for even more showers, maybe a few more rumbles of thunder through Thursday. And the trough will continue to move further eastward, and a lot more rain does begin to fill back in for the end of your Thursday nights through Friday. And we'll be talking maybe several inches of rain, unfortunately, by week's end. So the flooding concern also a big issue. We have some flood watches for most of the News 5 viewing area through the latter half of the weekend. So everywhere, basically, a potential for 3 to 4, even 5 inches of precipitation, especially the further south of Route 30, those higher amounts. But still, a lot of rain in a very short amount of time. Not good news. I've gotten a couple of reports from people coming into the station today that the freeways were very, very waterlogged as they did get into the station. So if you're going to be on the bounce over the next 24 to 36 hours, give yourself plenty of time to travel, as a lot of this rain could be very, very heavy at times. But right now, severe risk is fairly limited, which is some good news. A couple instances, maybe an isolated hail core out there up to about an inch, which is about the size of a quarter. And a lot of this will continue to move eastward during the next several hours. So the threat is kind of limited right now, but the bigger threat will be moving in later this evening through the overnight tonight, with some damaging winds being the primary focus, some heavy rains, frequent lightning, and cannot completely rule out that isolated tornado threat for the latter half of the overnight tonight. So make sure you stay weather aware and make sure you have a way to get warnings as you're heading to bed tonight. We'll be bringing you more throughout the next several hours if conditions warrant. But in the meantime, stay tuned for News 5 at 4, 5, and 6.